So as usual, all information on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended to provide financial advice. Alright, so today I wanted to talk about volume. I usually talk about volume a little bit in all the videos, so I want to explain it a little bit more in detail. The reason it's so important is because you want to pay attention to which exchange has the highest volume. Why is that important? Because that exchange tends to usually move the market. And not even necessarily the exchange, but if we're talking about the currency. So usually CNY, which is Chinese yen, usually that yuan, I don't know how to say it, that usually moves the market more than USD, Bitfinex, etc. So one simple website you can look at the volume of various exchanges is Bitcoin Wisdom. You can toggle USD and CNY. And you can see in USD the volume is, I think it's in dollars, $1.68 million for the past month, whereas in China it is 48 million. I think it's in USD for the past month. So if we break that down even further, we can see Bitfinex is the USD leader, OKCoin is the CNY leader. So those are the charts you want to pay attention to as far as price action and volume. However, there's one caveat that Chinese volume tends to be, I'm going to use the word fake, they tend to use things called volumizers or wash trading in China, which is where you can buy and sell at the same price. So it pumps up the volume without actually changing the price or influencing the price. And there's some evidence for this if we go to, this is the daily OKCoin chart in CNY. If we go to their chart and we look at the all-time high, what that volume was, okay. Now you could say, sure, this is interest at that time in Bitcoin was much less than it is now. I agree with you. However, if you take everything together and you see during this sideways chop action was OKCoin's highest reported volume ever, that's a little bit suspicious. It's also suspicious that there's this much of an increase in total volume compared to prior times. So you can sort of see, like, this is where the volumizer started. And even now, this price action volume hasn't exceeded this volume, which is super suspicious. So for that reason, I use USD charts when I'm looking at volume. I tend to focus on either Bitfinex, this is Bitfinex Daily, or Bitstamp. Regardless of their total volume, it's all about relative volume as far as on that exchange or a snapshot of a certain time frame, etc. So one ways you can play volume is when you're looking at a chart pattern or an area of consolidation or order block or however you want to call it. Usually you'll hear people say that there was a breakout on volume. So that's kind of confirmation that the breakout is real and not just like a fake out, okay? And I'll show you what that looks like. So if we look at this chart back from October 2014 to October 2015, we can see that largely price was governed by this order block. We bounced around in here. Now, ever since the bounce down from this support zone, volume kind of didn't exceed this level. 87,000 per day traded. You can also notice that towards the end here, it dipped down really far. So one way to watch for volume confirmations on direction changes, reversals, is you want to look for, just relatively, this volume bar exceeded everything for the past 2 months, okay? That usually has some sort of relevance. Now, you can't use volume in a vacuum and say, oh, I got to buy there every time, but that's part of the story of, is this a reversal or is this more stagnation? Usually the general rule I use is if the volume bar exceeds the previous past couple volume bars, okay? And I'll show you the example of that over here, but generally when you're looking at volume, you're just comparing relative volume. And again, the break of this zone, you can see this volume was massive compared to the past months before it, okay? It wasn't like up here, obviously, but relatively, if you don't know anything about this side of the chart yet, if you're just looking, you know, if you're trying to forecast where the price is going to go, volume can be a great indicator for that. The other thing about volume, you'll see these massive volume bars, right? Usually that represents things like, you know, we use the term blow off top or blow off move or blow off bottom. Generally, it's any type of exhaustion. You can think of it as fear of missing out, FOMO. You can think of it as euphoria or capitulation. It's generally just emotion. It's just people saying, I need to buy here, I need to sell here, or I need to buy and sell here. Everything I have, you know, and it's just tons of people doing that. Usually when we see that, that's the end of a move. Now that principle yields itself to saying this current move wasn't just a one-of. We're going to have more moves up because the blow-off moves typically have this volume, which is like 270k Bitcoin in one day traded, bought, however you want to say that, on this particular exchange. So those tend to be the blow-off moves. So another way volume is helpful is when you're trying to determine if a pattern is complete or not. So when we were in this Chop City Fest for 250 something days, each succeeding day was like, you know, are we going to break? Are we going to break? Are we going to break? And we get to here, we get to this candle. Just going to zoom in. Now this was a scary candle. Why was it scary? It not only broke the diag, it broke the previous two lows, okay? That was very potentially, seriously going to be doom. Everybody who thought this was going to break up freaked out a little bit on that candle, I can guarantee you. Because that's a big sell-off for a bunch of nothingness, you know, leading up to it. One example or reason why some people didn't consider this that big of a deal is because the volume on this day didn't actually break a local high for volume overall. So again, this is super relative and subjective, but even though you can say volume is dying off, trying to consolidate and figure out a direction, it never broke this candle, this volume bar, as far as total for the day. Whereas if you look at the actual breakout, volume exceeded, you know, however many days this was, a couple months at least. So not only did it exceed the consolidation zone, but it exceeded months old local top for volume. So if we take a look at our current triangle, no matter how you draw it, I drew it like this. You know, if you want to draw it down here, that's fine too. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. We did break some zone. We broke horizontals as well. You can see didn't necessarily close above for the day. But one way you can confirm a pattern break, like I was saying, is looking at volume, and it's hard to tell here. But even on this, we broke the previous local high for the day. Again, that's subjective, I know. One thing you can do is move in, you can zoom in on a lower time frame. So if we go to the 4-hour, let's just move this down here. We can see that, you know, I don't know, to me this looks like we broke something, right? Again, completely subjective. Obviously we haven't continued to move up. This isn't a super strong confirmation, an on-volume breakout, but I was long, still am, from this time period, 7/17. So again, this is just a small long on SimpleFX right now, but I did actually take the trade on that signal. So again, if we're looking at volume confirmation using indicators or patterns, if I look here, I'm saying there was a B-band breakout here. What's the volume look like? And you can see volume does confirm that. This is real. That's what it's telling me. This was on May 27th. So if we compare that to now, you can see it's questionable whether or not this was real. B-bands didn't expand yet. That's another reason that this hasn't exactly chosen a direction. But you can see overall volume relatively hasn't quite been as dramatic as it was here. And this is a very clear sign that yes, the direction has been chosen. Yes, we're going in this direction. So lastly, I just wanted to show you one other indicator called OBV, stands for on balance volume. One thing you'll immediately notice, I don't know if this is accurately labeling this as bull and bear, but if we look at the zero line, we can see in a bull trend, so unbalanced volume is there more buying than there is selling? If there is, then it sort of tracks that. So in this trend, the all-time high trend, you can see we had more buying than selling. We're above zero. Soon after that, we had more selling than buying, basically the entirety of that span. Okay, as soon as that plane breaks, the zero plane breaks, you can see we also broke that previous support resistance I highlighted on the other chart. So again, that's another confirmation that direction is changing. This is a reversal. This is real. This isn't a fake out. Another way you can play OBV is look at horizontals and supports just like any other indicator. So if you're drawing a horizontal here, again, we're looking at this ascending triangle. If you're drawing this horizontal and this diagonal and you're trying to determine if a move or direction is real, if the pattern is complete or not, just look at your horizontals, and see, did we break the plane? We broke the plane that hadn't been broken since January. So that's 4 months of resistance that was broken on this candle right here, this candle. So, without knowing everything else, you can use OBV as a confirmation of a break of a certain pattern. And then another OBV type oscillator is Lazy Bear's OBV oscillator. It's in TradingView, you can find it. Some people like this better. It kind of depicts the oscillations better. I don't know how else to say that, but you can see as things are petering off or cooling off, we go back to zero, and then it'll track the oscillations again. It'll give you confirmation of a direction. So if you guys have any comments, questions, let me know below. Thanks for the donations I've been receiving. Thanks for the Reddit golds and Bitcoin markets. If you'd like to see anything else, let me know. Share, subscribe. Happy trading.